Welcome to the Human Meme Podcast. I'm David Bowles, and today we talk about virtuality and the synthetic. The voice that wasn't yours. 3 seconds. That is all it takes. 3 seconds of your voice, captured from a public meeting, a conference call, a video posted to social media, and a machine can learn to speak as you. It can produce your cadence, your rhythm, the way you pause before a name, the way your pitch drops when you are certain. It can say things you have never said, in rooms you have never entered, to people you have never met. And the people who hear it will believe it is you, because the only test the human ear can perform is recognition. And recognition is no longer proof of origin. This is the condition that The Likeness, the 9th novel in the fractional fiction series, examines from the inside. The novel follows 3 intersecting lives in southeastern Ohio. A freelance audio engineer in Columbus builds voice clones for clients who never explain what they intend to do with the product. A county commissioner in a small river city watches her 15-year record of public service collapse under the weight of a 93-second recording of a conversation she never had. And a local newspaper reporter publishes the recording in good faith, following every verification protocol his profession has developed for authenticating audio evidence, and watches those protocols fail because the technology that produced the fake was engineered to defeat every test the protocols require. The fractional fiction method asks each novel to draw from 2 or 3 public domain source texts and a contemporary research domain. For The Likeness, the source texts are D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation from 1915, Sinclair Lewis's Elmer Gantry from 1927, and Franz Kafka's The Metamorphosis, also from 1915. Griffith's film remains the foundational case study in manufactured consensus. It demonstrated more than a century ago that fabricated media delivered through a trusted medium produces emotional and political responses in the audience that are indistinguishable from responses to documented reality. The audiences who watched Birth of a Nation experienced it as truth because the medium was new, the medium was trusted, and nobody had yet confronted the possibility that the medium could lie with the force of documentary evidence. We are living inside that same structural problem, updated for a different medium. Audio is the sense we trust without examination. When you hear a voice you recognize, you accept it without forensic analysis, without hesitation. The voice is the credential. The Likeness asks, what happens to a society that has built its institutions on that credential when the credential can be forged to a tolerance finer than the human ear can detect? Lewis gives the novel its architect. Elmer Gantry is the anatomy of a man whose technical gifts serve whatever system pays for them. Gantry's conviction is hollow, but his performance is flawless, and the transaction between his skill and the audience's need is the only currency he respects. The audio engineer in The Likeness operates by the same transactional logic. He builds a voice clone with meticulous precision, because precision is his professional standard. And the professional standard includes a partition between the quality of the work and the purpose of the product. He maintains that partition the way he maintains his equipment, through daily practice and the understanding that it degrades without care. Kafka provides the interior experience. Gregor Samsa wakes to find that his body has been reclassified by forces he cannot see, cannot control, and cannot reverse. The world responds to his new form rather than to the person inside it. The commissioner in the likeness undergoes a parallel transformation, except her body is unchanged. Her voice has been reclassified. She still sounds like herself. That is the specific horror of the novel's premise. Every time she speaks in public, she produces fresh evidence that the fabricated recording is plausible because the fabricated recording uses her voice, and her voice is her voice, and the two versions are acoustically identical. She is trapped inside a copy of herself, and the copy was assembled from material she gave freely to the public record in the course of doing her job. What drew me to this subject was the question underneath the technology rather than the technology itself. Voice cloning exists. Deepfakes exist. The forensic detection tools lag behind the generation tools by a margin that widens every year. These are documented facts. You can read the research papers. What the research papers cannot tell you is what happens to a specific person when their voice is no longer theirs. The loss is interior, private, and impossible to measure with the instruments the institutions have available. No forensic audio lab has an instrument for measuring the experience of a woman sitting at her kitchen table, listening to an old county commission meeting on her laptop, and discovering that she has to authenticate her own voice through technical evaluation, because the automatic recognition that once connected her to the sound of her own speech has been damaged beyond repair. The novel's answer to that question is local and specific. It is set in a county commission chamber, a newspaper office, a diner with a rotating pie case, a kitchen where a man makes the same 7 dinners in the same weekly rotation because the rotation requires no decisions and decisions are a resource he is conserving. The stakes are one woman's career, one family's stability, one community's trust in what it hears. The damage is measured in a neighbor who stops waving, a professional ally who requests a procedural delay rather than casting a vote beside someone under investigation, a daughter who comes home to fight and discovers the fight cannot be won with evidence because evidence is the weapon that was used against her mother. These are small-scale consequences. Small-scale consequences are the ones that accumulate into the permanent condition we will inhabit. Once the technology reaches the point where any voice can be cloned from 3 seconds of public audio. We are at that point now. The novel describes the present tense. The likeness is available today in paperback and Kindle editions from David Bowles Books. It is fractional fiction book 9, following The Dying Grove, The Inheritance, The Kinship of Strangers, The Held Land, The Corollary, The Somnambulist's Prophecy, Civility Certified, and Standard Deviation. Each novel in the series synthesizes public domain literature with contemporary research to produce a new work of literary fiction that carries the tradition forward while engaging a present concern. Each novel documents its sources. The synthesis is the work, and readers are invited to examine both. I wrote this book because I could not stop hearing the question it asks. If the voice is no longer proof of the person, what is? The answer is absent from the novel on purpose. The question is the point, rendered in the lives of people who are forced to confront it, before the rest of us are ready to. That is what fiction does when it is working. It arrives before the emergency and asks you to look. For the Human Meme Podcast, I'm David Bowles, wishing you a warm evening and an authentic tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Be a Human meme.